Studying abroad is an incredible experience that immerses you in a completely new culture while you work towards obtaining your degree. Undertaking this adventure in Indonesia would be very rewarding, and while there are some disadvantages, they are far and few between, with the advantages greatly outnumbering them. Spread across a chain of thousands of islands between Asia and Australia is what makes up Indonesia. Scientists and geographers have yet to be able to narrow down how many islands exactly make up Indonesia, but the ballpark figure is over 15,000. Indonesia's population is made up of 261.1 million people, which makes it the fourth most populous country in the world. Indonesia also has the world's largest Muslim population, which is around 225 million. And it also holds the title for having Southeast Asia's biggest economy. Indonesia is a very affordable country to visit, placing 5th in the top 20 countries for price competitiveness. This would leave me ample resources to support the basic necessities while leaving enough free money to travel.
When I took the Relational Self Questionnaire, I scored at the higher end, with a score of 31. This means that I largely define myself by my important relationships and connections with others. I am a very family and friend-orientated person, and the people close to me are often the most important aspects of my life. I do not form relationships very easily, and I am pretty closed off to new people, as it takes me a while to develop the above emotions.
It will be difficult for me to be away from my family and friends. I expect that I will be feeling extreme culture shock and struggle to find ways to adjust, as well as forming relationships with the people I meet in Indonesia. Indonesia is also very different geographically, economically, politically, and culturally compared to the US, so it'll be harder for me to adapt.
When I took the Verbal Aggressiveness Questionnaire, I scored at the higher end with a score of 34. I tend to be aggressive in my communication with others. I am aware that this is a problem, and I am trying to adjust and adapt in order to develop better communication skills. However, I struggle with maintaining a level head when I am engaged in conflict with another person. I will have to work on this while in Indonesia, as I want to be respectful of their culture while also not being afraid to communicate my thoughts.
Furthermore, I am hopeful that if I embrace the experience and actively engage in communication with others, it will promote healthy and productive relationships throughout my time studying abroad and beyond that into the future. Indonesians utilize conversation as ways to establish intimacy and identity. It normally takes me time to open up and converse with people freely, and I will have to drop that guard that I have pretty quickly when I arrive in order to come off as friendly and not rude. There's also the language barrier, and on this slide it shows some of the ways they say common phrases, like good morning is selamat pagi. Obviously I have a lot of learning to do.
When I took the Nonverbal Immediacy Questionnaire, I scored at the higher end with 105. This score seems fitting to me since I know that I tend to communicate nonverbally quite often with others. I am a confident speaker, and I am not afraid to maintain eye contact with someone or to use hand gestures when necessary. I am also an empathetic listener, and I make sure the person talking knows I am focused on what they are saying by nodding my head and having my body be pointed in their direction. While I believe I am a strong nonverbal communicator, I often will adjust the way I communicate based on the person I am talking with. If I feel very comfortable and close to the person I am talking with, I will be more open and animated. I will also be more likely to reach out and hug them or touch them on the shoulder. If I feel uncomfortable with the person or get the sense that they feel uncomfortable around me, I will become more reserved in my communication with them and keep what I am saying brief. I will also hold moderate eye contact with them and not lean in or touch them in any way. Indonesians are primarily indirect communicators, as they pay more attention to posture, expression, and tone of voice instead of words to draw meaning. Additionally, Indonesians are hesitant to answer negatively with a no, so it is important to listen carefully, and if you pick up on uncertainty, to double-check with them how they really feel, as they are very polite and try to avoid conflict. Furthermore, Indonesians view verbal aggressiveness as a reflection of poor education and upbringing. One of the most important tools in nonverbal communication is silence. This is a sign of respect, as it shows you have thought very carefully before responding. Indonesians are used to having less personal space due to the high population and cramped spaces, so they are close talkers. However, they primarily refrain from physical contact with anyone other than close friends and family. Indonesians hold direct eye contact, but they break it often. Maintaining prolonged eye contact makes them feel uncomfortable, and they divert their eyes out of respect when speaking to someone older or of a higher social status. Another way Indonesians show signs of respect are to lower their head below the height of a person who has superior status. Regarding hand movements, in Islamic culture, the left hand is considered unclean, so the right hand is primarily used. Indonesians also view putting hands on the hips as a sign of frustration.
Furthermore, this could negatively impact my ability to communicate in Indonesia, as there would be few familiarities to take comfort in. I need to work hard to adapt to their expected communication methods and strategies in order to have a good time and develop good relationships. In the 1990s, there was an economic crisis that affected most Asian countries, including Indonesia. As a result, the state of their economy took a hit, but is now relatively stable. This is because Indonesia is a country with plentiful natural resources like crude oil, natural gas, tin, copper, gold. They're also the second largest exporter of natural gas. Other major exports include rice, tea, coffee, spices, and rubber. They have strong trade relationships with Japan, the US, and Malaysia, as well as Singapore and Australia, which are countries that are close by to them. Like most countries, Indonesia has a low, middle, and upper class. Nearly half of their population, which is 35%, belongs to the lower class. But the middle class is going to be an emerging market for them in the future, which could upbring the levels of poverty. Furthermore, there's nothing uniform about Indonesia's culture. There are at least 300 different ethnic groups spread across the thousands of islands, and each has their own set of customs and beliefs. There are some similarities between all the cultures, but Indonesia is very diverse, so there's not a lot of similarities. Indonesia's most recent election was very polarizing and resulted in riots being held in the street. These riots were also driven by the spread of false news and misinformation over social media. This unrest turned very violent, with altercations with thousands of protesters and police forces intervened. Therefore, I will have to be careful in certain areas of the country and avoid talking too openly about the political climate. Indonesia is a democratic country and uses the presidential system like we do. The presidential elections are every 5 years, and all of the islands vote. Pancasila, Philosophical Fundamentals, is the soul of the Indonesian democracy and is made up of 5 principles: Indonesian nationalism, humanism, democracy, social prosperity, and belief in one God. Current governmental issues include Indonesia relocating its capital. The President Joko Widodo believes this move is essential to unburden its current location, a city called Jakarta on the island of Java. The city is currently crowded with smog and is heavily populated with 10 million people. This congestion is causing Jakarta to rapidly sink. He believes shifting the capital east would even out Indonesia's development, and it is worth the $33 billion price tag.
I would firstly join a language group to learn the national dialect, which is Bahasa Indonesia. When I took the listening anxiety questionnaire, I got a score of 30. I believe this is kind of a midpoint between low and high listening anxiety, so I feel like the score is pretty good reflection of me. I agree with the score since I am not afraid of complex ideas or of having real conversations with people. I think my score is as high as it is because I am an introvert and dealing with extroverts to me is sometimes overwhelming. I do know that I can get easily stressed by having someone outpour a lot of information to me all at once. When a person is talking to me and their mouth is moving a mile a minute, I start to get distracted and worry that I will not remember everything they are saying, and while I am worrying I am missing what they are saying by not being focused. I will especially have difficulty in Indonesia, as they will be speaking a different language and their dialect is faster paced than ours. Therefore, I will not fully grasp what they are saying, which makes me feel anxious, which is why I will try to learn the language as soon and quickly as possible. I would also excitedly join a travel group to view the abundance of natural and man-made sites scattered across Indonesia. Some fast facts of all there is to see are that Indonesia is home to 8 World Heritage Sites. It is the second country in line with the longest coastline, which goes on for 54,716 kilometers. It has over 130 volcanoes, and it hosts mega-diverse animal and plant species. There is plenty to see and experience when I am not in classes, which makes it a pretty spectacular country.
For me, disadvantages to the experience include homesickness, culture shock, legal headache figuring out the visas and health insurance, and another headache when you get home, guaranteeing your credits transfer. The advantages to this experience outweighs the disadvantages. This program will have a very positive impact on my future, since today businessmen and businesswomen need to be receptive to new cultures and ideals to build rewarding relationships, as well as to have the ability to adapt their skills across a multitude of cultures. Therefore, undertaking this experience will make me an asset to prospective businesses, as global experience helps set me apart in the highly competitive business environment.